Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Visions and Voices. I'm your host, John Stewart, partner here at Armanino, overseeing our family office industry. Today, I have two lovely guests. I don't usually have two. I get two today. We have two lovely guests. We have Libby, Doran, and Nayana, and we are going to talk about Doran Leadership Partners and their impact and their view of the family office space. And I'm not going to give away all the topics, guys. You got to listen to the whole thing. But let's start off with some intros. Libby, I'll start with you, and then Nayana will move to you.
Great. John, thanks so much. It's great to be with you today. And hello from Minneapolis, which is the world headquarters of Doran Leadership Partners. We are an organization development and executive search firm. And we are a small but mighty boutique, 10 people in Boston, Minneapolis, and Chicago with national reach. About half of our practice is in family enterprise, and a big chunk of that is in family office. It's work that we're passionate about and excited to talk about today.
Awesome. Yeah, I got to add on to the audience who may not know, you guys have a sterling reputation, and that's why you're here. Because this is a very insular world, this family office world, and people share quickly, and your names come to the top every time. So I don't want to stop the intros, though. Nayana, your turn. Please go.
Sure. My name is Nayana, and I've been with Doran Leadership for the last 2 years. My career kind of began on the dark side in investment banking.
That is the dark side. Yeah.
Yep. I worked in the media telecom sector, kind of in the tech bubble, kind of late 90s. But I've always been really into leadership and curious about how organizations make decisions around leadership. And so after a stint in private wealth and family office space, kind of naturally found myself in search, and I partner with Libby on a lot of our family office searches, engagements for CEOs, CFOs, client services.
And I have to add on your clients, friends that I know, colleagues I know, they rave about both of you. They do. And so I want to put that out there in the world. I want our audience to hear that, because it's not just conjecture or John just likes these two. Like, no, I do, but people talk about you guys. And I thought it'd be really special to have just a segment on this, because I think your approach is unique. And I know you've walked me through it before in terms of when I was getting to know you guys with some mutual friends that you were placing at some family offices. But I'd love to hear, tell the audience about Doran Leadership and the unique approach you take. I do think it's very special to this industry, and I'd love for you guys to share that.
Great. Well, I'll take a shot, and Nayana, jump in. We are really proud of the process and the delivery that we've designed. And it's the same whether we're working with a family office, a family business, a PE portfolio company. And it all starts with an upfront deep dive, what we call our discovery process, to get to know the stakeholders, to understand family members in the family office case, to meet the team, to meet key partners. And we have structured and very deep conversations with them, not just about a search or a role, but about what's distinctive in their culture. How are decisions made? How are the dynamics going? What's the challenges? What are the opportunities? And that deep dive really works in 3 ways. One is it gives everybody some fingerprints and involvement on whatever search we're starting, so that it creates some buy-in. It gives us a chance to help with alignment if the family and the team need it. And then finally, it helps us understand what the right leader is for a family office. That's not just skills, qualifications, experiences, but truly what leadership competencies we're really working to find in candidates for our clients. So that's one big distinctive about our process.
Think it's a huge distinctive, by the way, Libby. I mean, not that I work with a lot of recruiters, I can't say I do, but when we come across them in our world, I don't know that we've come across one that takes that kind of unique perspective. So I could see how that would be a value add to the families you're trying to help.
Yeah, thanks for commenting on that. It's a big investment, and it's really launched us to a place where candidates comment that we know our clients better than anybody else in the industry, and where the placements we make stick because we get them right. We get the culture right. We get the skills and qualifications right.
Seen that, and you guys know, I know a couple of your placements, and I talk to them actively, And I can tell that fit is there. Like you can see it. You're like, oh my God, how did you find the perfect place to be? And I think that's a credit to both of you.
Mm. Yeah, thanks. Well, we're pretty thorough and we're pretty processy. And I used to get in trouble my first search firm for being too processy, but now my name's on the door and we get to run it the way we want to. So
Right. It's funny how that changes things. Then all of a sudden, you're not too processy. You're just right.
apparently, apparently.
Nina, what would you,
Yeah,
what
what
would
would
you
you
add
add?
on to that, Nina?
I think we hone in on culture. I think we hone in on what's working really well and where there are gaps. And so in the family office space, I think where there's generational transition or there's some change management happening, I think we do a lot of deep listening to hear like, okay, if there's going to be new leadership coming in, are there gaps? Are there pieces that have been taken for granted? You know, a lot of long tenured, beloved people who have been there a long time who know how everything works. But they know it all up in their head, right? And so like, is there a way to institutionalize some of that knowledge and that wisdom? And so we listen for that and we make sure that the principals are aware of that so that every search engagement, we bring that insight to.
Mm-hmm.
What resonates with me, because it's a quote, has always resonated with you, but I feel like it's part of your ethos. And tell me if I'm capturing it wrong, but I think I'm on the point here. Is that there's an old Drucker quote of, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And it's famous, right? It's popular. I happen to love that one. I think it rings true in my experience of working for very large companies, small companies, and in between. I have found that to be true. And it feels like that's what you got. There's an ethos to you about that. Is like that's true as well. Am I capturing that correctly?
I wrote that down on my notepad earlier today. It's culture eats strategy. Culture also eats experiences and qualification. Culture eats a resume.
Yeah. I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's why when I noticed what the approach you were going through and the fit you've landed with, you, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That's the right way to do it. And I could see why families would be attracted to that. It's going to de-risk the hiring process.
That's right on. That's right on. Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Okay, so let's dive in. I'm so curious to hear more about this. So, what are some trends at Doran Leadership Partners that you're seeing in family offices that are impacting leadership? Could it be family office governance, succession planning, whatever? Take it wherever you want. But what are some of those trends you're seeing?
Yeah, I'll give a few three broad brush areas right now that we're seeing in family offices all over the country. One is leadership change is happening. We're seeing legacy leaders retire. We're seeing leaders that are family members who are ready to step away and do something different. And very little succession planning. I think 40% of family offices have minimal succession planning.
I've seen that at my end too. So I'm going to go.
Yeah.
I mean, very rarely do we come in a situation, and maybe we're talking about entity structuring and processes and technology, but we ask about succession.
Yeah.
And it's 8 out of 10 of the times it's crickets.
Yeah. It's minimal. So the changes are happening. There are intentional efforts to prepare for the future with next gen coming up and principals retiring or aging out. And so we're seeing the geometric growth of the client base in terms of who's going to need services and have voice and agency. And then there's overall, I'll call it a desire to modernize people, processes, technology, that upgrade that you are right in the middle of, John.
That is where we play. Yep.
Both around sort of how do we create sustainable practices that aren't tied to individual people, and with the degree of complexity that's increasing across investment portfolios, tax, you name it, cybersecurity, all the stuff. And so we're seeing those in play. We're also seeing that modernization in terms of organization structures. Often family offices are built around individuals and loyal lieutenants who work for the family for a long time and just keep taking on more. And there's a professionalization happening of how those roles are structured to be a more pure CFO or a more pure chief operating officer. carving out the client service, client solutions side. The final thing I'll say before I take a breath is that we're also seeing a greater emphasis on people and team development in family offices to help the existing crew grow, to help them work better together, and help them better serve the family.
Totally makes sense in a modern workforce, particularly with all this newer tech coming in with AI and other things that are impacting it. That team fit and vibe and development is absolutely critical to success, I would think.
Absolutely.
All right, so Nayana, why don't you add on there, please? What else? What are you seeing, or you want to double down anything Libby's saying, of course? But yeah, where would you take this?
Yeah, I think we're seeing a few of, the formalization, modernization, professionalization of family office space is a big theme. I think the complexity is driving it. So it's complexity across investments, it's complexity across technology, it's complexity around family expansion and types of
Family dynamics.
family dynamics.
Yeah.
So all of that is creating a need for, very targeted, perhaps more narrowly defined professionals, seasoned professionals than there used to be in the past, right? I think people used to have broader scopes, broader purviews, and now they're looking for more functional expertise in those roles. But
Is it? Yeah, give an example. Was the old school? Hey, I just need someone to handle investment management, and now it's like, hey, I need someone who's going to be multifaceted, or is it I need multiple people to do that, or like how are they approaching it now as they look at their like? Give me an example of that, right? Like you're coming from this old school or an older approach, and you're like, I need to modernize. Where are they shifting to?
So we've seen some examples where, there can be someone who was in a CFO role for many years, and a great CFO, but as the family expanded, they also realized they needed someone to be more of a client solutions, client services person. So whereas when the family was still smaller, a CFO could do both, could manage client relationships wonderfully and be a CFO. But as the family just expands and the numbers grow and the complexity grows, it's like, okay, we're going to need to carve this out and become more intentional about those roles. And technology is driving kind of that expertise for CFOs as well. CFOs are needing to be more fluent in more than just finance.
It makes sense because obviously we're having a huge moment not just in the US, but in the world too, the transition of wealth, right? And it's going to keep going on for the next, 10, 15 years or so, as you see boomers retire and Gen X then. So that makes a lot of sense to me because now you're seeing family trees are just proliferated, right? You're right. It used to be one or two people, and now it's like, well, you got 16 now. You're a couple of generations in, and we got to manage all that, and that's all very different. They all don't think the same. They all don't have the same goals. This is not a corporation where we all line up to the same thing. It doesn't work like that, right? So makes sense that you're seeing this change in dynamic of how they have to hire differently too.
John, I think just to understand too from your side, like family offices are living organisms, right? And as the family changes, they need to change. And part of that also is figuring out what they insource and what gets outsourced, and where they can be brilliant and where they need to go outside. So you're experiencing that too, I'm sure.
Yeah, we are. We're seeing. Oh, I don't usually get interviewed. This is good. Okay, let's do that. I like this. Let's flip it. Ooh, Libby's good. All right. What we're seeing is that same thing as families trees are expanding, generational handouts are occurring. There's a bigger drive to what's our core, outsource the rest, because it becomes so complex. It's like, hey, why don't I just hire experts that could be my accounting department? Why don't I have someone running technology for me? Right? Like you don't necessarily need to have that in-house necessarily, depending on what you're doing. There's always exceptions to that. But I think we're seeing that big uptick now of like, okay, I can outsource a lot of this piece that are, I wouldn't say they're not commodities, but they're standardized operations, right? And you can find experts out there like an Armanino or others, right? That can do that. And then it lets you focus on the core part of what you want to do with your family, whether that's, your investment plan. Maybe you've got a charitable plan, right? Or maybe it's a private equity type focus. We're seeing a lot of that now, right? I'm sure you're seeing it too, where family offices are acting a lot more like private equity firms. And so that's a different model,
Yeah.
but it goes back to an old leadership, kind of a management adage is like, I can't manage what I don't measure, and I should measure the core things.
Yeah.
And so that makes sense. So yeah, this is not about me though. You turned it around. That was good, Libby. But yeah, I agree with what you guys are seeing because we're seeing similar on this side. Yeah. So well, let's go down the generational transition thing because I do think that's a very large area or very large impact we're seeing right now, and I think everybody feels it. But so what are those impacts of generational transitions that you're seeing from family office leaders, and how is that affecting their hiring? Let's go further into that. Tell us more.
Libby, maybe I'll jump in on this one.
Let's go.
All right. It's happening everywhere. We're seeing it across the board. And what's different is the pace at which where it's happening and how the next generation wants to engage. And so I think with every family, the next generation has its areas of priority and its areas of passion, right? So every family, like there's some where the next gen is super into philanthropy. There's some where it's super into investments. Some are really into being the family leaders. And so we've seen it. We've seen a variety. And I think the theme is where there's generational transition, the most successful ones are when they start early and they're intentional and they take into account like the technical side and the human dynamics, right? And so how are we seeing the impact of all this in hiring? I think we're seeing it with infrastructure and kind of governance, new ways of organizing family leaders. And that's always fun to see. I think we're seeing it in risk appetite.
I've noticed that one too. And everybody's different, but the risk appetites are changing.
Risk appetite is huge. And that plays out in impact investing. It plays out in direct investing, private equity, venture, all of that. And then I think where we're seeing it most universally is technology, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's pervasive right now, and it's attacking this industry with a ferocious pace. I honestly have to admit, like it's quickly bleeding through this industry, but in a good way. I think it's helping it wake up in ways that maybe people didn't realize these tools were applicable or could help them.
Say more about that.
Yeah, see, oh my God, you guys are both good. You turn it around on me every time. This is good. This has not happened yet. So, okay, I will say more about that. So what I'm noticing is that, particularly with the generational transition, you have a younger generation that is already technology forward, right? Whether it's somebody in their 40s taking over or somebody in their 25-year-old who's getting ready to take over at some point later. Either way, we're more tech forward than maybe a previous generation. Obviously there's exceptions to that, but generally speaking, that's what we're seeing. And what we're seeing for that is they expect different things because of that, right? Mm-hmm. They expect things to be faster, reporting to be instant. They expect everything on their phone or their iPad. All good expectations, by the way, right? Those aren't false expectations, but it changes the way you run something. And it changes the way you run your operation. So we're seeing that kind of influx coming and the conflict internally that may create at their end. Because it may be that the principals still running it don't care. Mm-hmm. They don't see the need for it. The way they've been working works. But the up and coming generation or the next one's coming in to take the baton are like, yeah, but we need it. And they're talking more about that complexity you refer to, right? That the complexity is increasing. Well, I need all those tools to handle this now.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're in the middle there trying to mediate those discussions. Like, I'm sure you guys get pulled into very similar discussions too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think we're seeing it driven by complexity, John, and transparency, right? And so there's transparency across reporting tools and phone centric, mobile centric. So I think it's across that whole spectrum.
And do you see it impacting how they train the next generation too? Because recently this has come up with a couple clients where they're asking me like, how soon is too soon to train the next generation, which is their children and they're young, on what this means that we have a lot of wealth. Curious I'm throwing this one at you. Curious your view on that. If you've seen any of that, that generational transition and what you would guide them. I have a view on this, but I feel like you guys are more experts in this than I am. So how do you see that occurring? How should families address that? Hey, they've got young kids and maybe in 10, 15 years, they're going to take over. But like, when do you start training them about this? And how do you do that?
Yeah. It's interesting because we work with a lot of family offices that have multiple branches and multiple households within each branch. And so my first reaction is there's no single answer. It needs to be within the household. And a good conversation with a family office leader is critical, just to start to plant the seeds about how it could play out within the value structure of an individual household. We do see a lot of hesitation in the next gen, the 18 to 30 somethings. Hesitation, lack of availability, where there's an existing family office, and engaging that crew is really, really challenging. And they're launching careers, and they're getting married, and they're having families, and it's the last.
And they grew up with this wealth, so that sense that's just a different mentality.
It can be a different mentality, and someday they will need to be stewards of it. But right now, it's hard to engage, and so the challenge is, how do you, not only engage and sort of provide transparency and some sort of picture of what their wealth may look like for them, but also how do you engage them in the office and the work of the team that's trying to steward the legacy and the assets of the family going forward. So those are two tricky things. That individual household conversation is, sort of my pat answer on this stuff.
Yeah.
And finding ways to gather that next gen together, get the cousins together, let them have some fun, and then let them do something meaningful together.
Right.
Sometimes it's through philanthropy. Sometimes, it can be as simple as asking them to be the ones interviewing the next estate attorneys. If the family's getting ready to transition an outside source, putting them together as a SWAT team on that.
Well, I was going to ask you, so how does that impact how you look to profile and hire individual leaders for them? Like, do you take into account, hey, this person also needs to be adaptable to the younger generation? Like, is that part of this profiling?
Yeah, for sure. It's about relatability and adaptability and flexibility. And it's often about finding a leader who can work within white space to design some stuff, to to try it and course correct, and just be flexible in terms of trying to engage that next gen. And that's a special skill set.
I was going to say, that's pretty unique to this industry. So yeah, so let's expand on that. What else is unique when you're hiring leaders in this space? Obviously, that ability to handle white space, that flexibility, that ability to kind of talk across all and hear them, right? Because that obviously that matters. They need to trust that family person, that person they've hired to kind of be their steward. They got to trust them. What else is unique right now for hiring in the family office space?
Well, I'll give you a couple other thoughts on that. One is, as Nayana was talking about, sort of that ability to go broad and look and, roll up their sleeves and be responsive and work beyond their job description. That is something that we see as critical because, if someone's a little rigid or someone comes in with too much ego, it could blow up either with the team or with the family or both.
I could see that going poorly real quickly.
Yeah. I mean, that matching, one of the fun parts about working in family office for us is that you're working in multiple cultures at the very same time in the very same organization.
I don't know if I've thought about that, but you're right. It's multiple cultures. And those can be conflicting. They can be overlapping. They could be isolating, whatever it is, but every family is a little different in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. So finding someone who has that adaptability is super, super critical. And then, we use the term in our firm low ego a lot. And if we unpack that behaviorally, it's about someone who's curious, who does not come in with a playbook, someone who is a great listener and probably uses those two ears twice as much as that one mouth,
My
right?
father had that saying to me growing up, Libby. He's like, "You got two ears and one mouth for a reason, and know the
Yeah.
difference."
Yeah.
Well, I get that. That's good. I
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. That's good.
Yeah. So that low ego piece is really critical. And just finding candidates who embody that. And you can't find that on a resume.
Yeah, no, a piece of paper's not gonna tell you any of that, right? No, that's really a marketing device. So yeah, you're not gonna.
That's right.
Yeah, that's not.
Dana, what would you add?
Yeah, Nana, tell me what I mean, I know you're on the front lines. You're hearing and seeing from people all the time. What are you seeing and hearing that you think is unique and more effective in this space?
Um, I mean, I think Libby nailed it, but that white space piece is so big. Like just comfort with ambiguity,
Mhm.
comfort with not just doing the job, but being a trusted advisor, right? Like really taking that to heart. That what you're sharing means something and what you're hearing means something, and it holds a lot of value. And these are meaningful, personal decisions, right? Like family offices can be large in scale and invest like institutions, but it's people that are at the center of it.
Right,
So,
there's family values attached to
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And I would assume like the individuals being hired to support this have to really identify with that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's such a I mean, it goes back to the culture piece, but really you're getting to like you think about it, it's the family values around the dinner table, right? Or whatever it is, however you want to picture it, right? And that individual has to link up to that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For
I
sure.
can see that I can see that being tricky, which is why we have experts like you that go do that. But all right, so I'm big on innovation. I think you guys know a little bit about the innovation stuff we do here. So let's talk about how you guys are innovating when it comes to sourcing top tier talent for family offices. Walk me through it. I think you guys are already innovative, but tell the audience all about it.
well, there's a few ways we're innovative, and maybe we'll split it up. Like I think we're innovative in tools that we use in our research process, and then we're also being innovative in where we source, where we look for our top tier talent. So maybe I'll talk about where we're looking,
Sure.
and then maybe Libby, why don't you jump in with all the other innovative tools and things we use? Um, so we have, when we design the position spec and think about everything that this leader needs to bring to the table, um, we use leadership competencies to flesh out all of the functional parts of the role. Like, how does this person really work? And so we take that and we go to market, and where we've been going and looking beyond the single family space and the multifamily space is we've been looking in private equity.
Mm-hmm.
We've been looking in venture. We've been looking across investment management firms, of course. We've been looking at endowments and foundations, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the sizes of these multi-billion-dollar family offices resemble those.
Yeah.
We've been looking at professional services firms, right? Whether it's consulting and tech, accounting,
It's similar skill set. They're dealing with the
similar skill set.
ambiguity, white space. Yep. Similar stuff. Yep.
Yeah. We'll also look at corporate executives, and entrepreneurial, operators, because a lot of these family offices have had successful entrepreneurs who have founded and created.
Is it fair to say that would also, like, when you look at this, that comes down to the kind of the attributes the family has too, so that you then are looking and saying, oh, they have these triggers. I need to look for someone with that kind of profile as well.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. So, I think for a long time, the family office space was, there was movement within the family office space, but I think more and more leaders and family members are being much more open to where they're sourcing talent and being creative about it, and realizing that there's parallels and similarities across industries. Maybe,
Yeah.
I'd love your thoughts on that too.
I think I like how you teed that up, Nayana, and that's part of the fun of our work, right? Is to is to be able to find talent from inside family office or outside that's going to be transformative for our clients and stick with them for a very long time. So I think we've in the last year or two, we've probably placed some people who are, surprises to family office insiders. And that's great. There's so much demand for great talent in the space that the existing talent in the space isn't going to be able to meet that demand. So that's a great thing. I think the other thing that's a little innovative is in terms of when we come in, we are not just delivering candidates to be evaluated by the family and the team,
Right.
but we're really working to build some capacity within the office for doing good executive recruiting / talent acquisition. So we're very structured in how we tee up interviews, how we, assign people to do different interviews, the tools we provide, how we offer feedback, how we, bring in outside assessment to do some other work with candidates, and really, as you were saying, John, to de-risk the process as much as possible, because the disruption of a failed hire in family office cannot be overstated.
Right. Yeah, because it has a more massive impact, right? It's a small organization.
Yeah, totally. So we want to leave our clients better off in terms of when they're doing future hiring than we found them. And so that's something that's a little bit new and different to how the work is done.
And I think part of it, to me, when I hear that, speaks to kind of the proliferation of technology that we talked about a bit. Because let's say you go back a couple of decades, it was like, well, you could do Myers-Briggs, you could do the DISC, and only corporations could afford it because it was these large license fees. But now that's not the case. You can easily run these kinds of tools and get really rich data off of it. I know here at Armenia, we use one too. You have to go through.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. And it's cool because it gives us a profile of somebody, and we share our own too. So actually, when we're meeting someone, we share our own profile with their profile, and we talk about what that means and what the difference is, how we would work together.
Yeah.
Because it just helps us understand if there's going to be a good fit or not.
I think that's right. And sort of this is one where we've chosen to outsource, where we think that multivariable assessment is, best in class, using validated instruments, giving someone, not just a good selection data, but also helping inform an onboarding plan and development plan for the new leader that's coming in.
They're really rich in data now. These aren't the old tests. These aren't these personality tests of old, right?
No.
And it's not like that. They're detailed. There's I don't know if this precision is the word, but it's closer to really, you look at it, you're like, oh, geez, that is me. And you're like, oh, boy.
How did they figure that out in 50 questions?
Yeah, I know. I know. Or some of the tools only have like 10 questions. You're like, how did you get to that? But I'll let the data scientists tell me that later, I guess. But,
yeah, right.
So how do you guys see technology? I mean, it's a good example, but how else is technology impacting leadership in this space right now?
We're seeing technology impact everything. It's infusing like every conversation we're having, right, around every leader. And right now, the last few years, we've been really busy in the CFO space, the CEO space, and seeing a lot of activity in client relationships, client services, that kind of role. And in every single one, technology is brought up as a central pillar. Like, we want this leader to be conversant in trends. We want this leader to be comfortable in using technology in engaging with family members. We want, if it's a CFO, we want them to think about technology in parallel with risk management, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's across the board. It's in everything now in family office, and you're probably seeing it more than we are.
Oh, it's constant.
Yeah, and
it's just changing the nature of work. You don't maybe need 3 accounting clerks, for an example, because you have an AI bot running your bank recs and your bill.
Right.
So then you just need more of a skeleton team to honestly do the strategic work.
Yeah,
which is more meaningful and more fulfilling for an individual anyway.
That's right.
But it's changing the nature of work. Yeah,
absolutely.
Do you see
Flipping it around again. Go on.
I'm so curious about this. Do you see um, a difference in technology based on kind of size of family office? Is there a jump? Is there a certain level at which the technology needs really skyrocket?
Yes and no. So the yes part is for the bigger systems, right? So the base systems for any family office. By the way, this is great. You guys interview me. Like we just haven't done this before. This is maybe a new idea. We're innovating right now. Um, what I see is the base stack kind of remains, right? You need a portfolio management tool and you need a general ledger at your base point. You need those to be connected cleanly, right? Those are base. That's like table stakes. And there's a different options as you get in different sizes of wealth, but you still need those things essentially, right? Um, and what we're seeing is as you get bigger, now you may get more sophisticated in your investment strategies. You may get more sophisticated in your entity structuring. Then there's other tools that come into play that can bolt onto those other two that I mentioned that make life easier to manage that complexity. And we're seeing that. And I don't know if that's a certain level of wealth. It's just more of a certain level of complexity. I think anybody could really need it. It's just a matter of, are you going down that strategy or not? But I think what's most pervasive over all of them is the use of AI and RPA automation technologies. There's not that is not a cost prohibitive idea. There's no balance to that, meaning you could be someone with $5 million in wealth and want to use it, or you could be someone with 5 billion in wealth and want to use it. And those tools apply either way. So I think that's one that's just cutting pervasively because of how economically feasible they are to implement and how well they work. And we're at the early stage of this too, guys, right? Like we know we're using AI agents already in family offices. We're putting them in place today, but I know we're scratching the surface. We're doing low hanging fruit right now. We haven't really gotten into the more advanced stuff, and that's going to come.
Sure.
So yeah, I see it at my end too. I can imagine for you, it's just as pervasive, and it has to be a critical component to finding the right leader, I think.
You bet.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to turn it back around to something fun here because we're getting towards the end of this, and I want to be mindful of your time. I know you got a busy day. You got a lot of clients that want your attention, and they don't want you on a podcast maybe. So we'll get you back to that. I want to go around and say some closing words, please do, about kind of the space and leadership and where you see it going. But also, can you add on a favorite quote or a mantra and tell me why?
Sure. Thanks.
Start with Libby. Go ahead.
John, you are so much fun. And thank you so much for inviting us on.
Anytime.
And for your partnership and collaboration. This is such a special space, and it's such privileged work we get to do inside a family office. Nowhere else, to my knowledge, do you see such strong collaboration within the sector. Because
they're not competitors, right? These families don't compete with each other. It doesn't work.
That's right. And an overall ethos about sort of sustaining families and providing service in better and new ways. So it's just like I said, it's a privilege to do the work and to affiliate with these really incredible families that we get to work with. So my quote is that I look at every morning is Eleanor Roosevelt's. Do something that scares you every day.
I love that quote. That's a great quote from her.
Yeah.
That is one of my favorite people to get quotes from. She has got a lot. That is a great one.
I don't know. As a woman leader, there is something that scares me every single day. And today it's coming on this podcast with you, John.
Well, you didn't look scared and you guys have crushed it. So yeah.
But I just think every day, in our firm, we really operate with a growth mindset. And so we take risks, we make mistakes, and we grow from them and we learn from them. And the next day, there's going to be something else that's a little bit uncertain. So
I love that. It totally makes sense to me. I love it. All right, Nayana, you got to follow that. That's the hard part. You got to follow.
I know that's a really hard one. I'm going to go with a mantra, and it's a mantra that my late father gave to me when I was going to college.
Okay.
And it's a very universal Buddhist mantra that is Om Mani Padme Hum, which is it's about the lotus that lives within us.
Okay.
And it's like finding the jewel of the lotus within you every single day. And it's it's a way of like embracing resilience because the lotus flower finds its way like through the muddy waters, fights its way, chasing the sun, and then blooms above water. So
I love it. It also kind of speaks to all the inner work you do to then blossom, right? And
that's right.
the multiple things in there. We could probably make a whole nother podcast on that, but I love that one. That's great. Oh man, you guys crushed this. Yeah, neither of you look scared or new to this, but you both did an amazing job. So I appreciate you, joining me here today. I'm sure the audience is going to get a lot of value out of this. So thank you both for taking the time to do that.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Absolutely. So everyone out there, this concludes this episode of Visions and Voices. Again, I'm John Stewart. We had Libby, Doran, Nayana. Thank you guys for joining us here today. We will see you on the next one.